My $12,000 paid for my nephew's surgery. Then I was uninvited from his recovery party for negative energy. But when the hospital called about unpaid bills, I handed them his parents' number and let reality do the rest finally. My name is David, and I'm 34 years old. I work as a software engineer for a mid-sized tech company in Phoenix. I've always been the reliable one in my family, the one who shows up when there's a crisis, the one who lends money that never gets paid back, the one who fixes problems without asking for credit. I learned early on that being dependable meant being invisible unless someone needed something from me. My sister Rachel is 3 years younger than me, but you'd think she was royalty the way our parents treat her. She's always been the dramatic one, the one who could turn a paper cut into a medical emergency requiring everyone's immediate attention and sympathy. When we were kids, I'd get a scraped knee and be told to walk it off, while Rachel would get a splinter, and Mom would rush her to urgent care. That pattern never really changed. Rachel married her college boyfriend, Mark, when she was 25, and they had Tyler 2 years later. Tyler is now 8 years old, and honestly, he's a great kid. He's curious, funny, and one of the few bright spots in my complicated relationship with Rachel's family. While Rachel inherited our parents' flair for drama, Tyler somehow ended up being pretty grounded. Maybe it's because Mark is a decent guy who keeps things in perspective, or maybe Tyler just got lucky with his temperament. I've always made an effort to be a good uncle to Tyler. I take him to baseball games, help with his science fair projects, and remember his birthday every year with something thoughtful, not expensive, but chosen specifically for his interests. Last year, it was a telescope because he'd mentioned wanting to see Saturn's rings. The year before, it was a chemistry set after he became obsessed with how volcanoes work. Rachel, meanwhile, treats me like a combination bank account and emergency contact. When her washing machine breaks, she calls me. When she needs someone to watch Tyler for the weekend, she assumes I'm available. When she wants to buy something she can't afford, she hints around until I offer to help. It's been this way for so long that I stopped noticing how one-sided it was until recently. The pattern became crystal clear about 6 months ago when Tyler started having stomach problems. At first, Rachel brushed it off as growing pains or something he ate, but the pain got worse and Tyler started losing weight. Mark pushed for a doctor's visit, which led to more tests, which led to a specialist, which led to the diagnosis that changed everything. Tyler needed surgery to repair a congenital defect in his intestines. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was serious enough that delaying treatment could cause complications. The surgery itself would cost about $15,000, and that was with their insurance covering most of it. Their portion would be around $12,000, money they simply didn't have. Mark works in retail management and Rachel does part-time administrative work when she feels like it. They live paycheck to paycheck in a house that's slightly too expensive for their income because Rachel insisted they needed to be in a good neighborhood for Tyler. They drive cars with payments they can barely afford because Rachel didn't want to be seen in anything older than 5 years. Their financial priorities have always been about appearances rather than security. When Rachel called me about Tyler's surgery, she was in full crisis mode. "David, I don't know what we're going to do," she sobbed into the phone. "The hospital wants the money up front and we just don't have it. Tyler is in pain every day and they can't operate until we figure out the payment situation." I didn't hesitate. Tyler needed the surgery and he was my nephew. "Don't worry about it," I told her. "I'll handle the hospital bill. Just focus on getting Tyler better." The relief in her voice was immediate. "Oh my God, David, thank you so much. I knew you'd come through for us. You always do. Tyler is going to be so grateful. We all are." I called the hospital that afternoon and arranged to pay Tyler's portion of the surgical costs. $12,000 transferred directly from my savings account to ensure Tyler could get the surgery scheduled as soon as possible. It wasn't money I could easily spare. I'd been saving for a down payment on a house, and this wiped out a significant chunk of my progress. But Tyler needed help and I was in a position to provide it. The surgery was scheduled for the following week. I took time off work to be at the hospital, arriving early that morning with coffee and breakfast sandwiches for Rachel and Mark. Tyler was nervous but trying to be brave. I sat with him before they took him back, playing his favorite card game and telling him about the new video game I'd bought for his recovery. "Thanks for being here, Uncle David," Tyler said as the nurses prepared him for surgery. "Mom said you're the reason I can get my stomach fixed." I squeezed his hand. "You don't need to thank me, buddy. That's what family does." The surgery went perfectly. Tyler's surgeon said everything had gone according to plan, and Tyler should make a full recovery within a few weeks. I stayed at the hospital until Tyler was awake and comfortable, then went home feeling genuinely good about what I'd done.
I'd helped my nephew when he needed it most, and that felt right.
Over the next 2 weeks, I checked in regularly. I brought Tyler books and puzzle games to keep him occupied during recovery. I picked up groceries for Rachel and Mark so they could focus on taking care of Tyler. I even arranged for meal deliveries from Tyler's favorite restaurants during his first week home from the hospital. Tyler's recovery progressed beautifully. He was back to his normal energy level within 10 days, eating regularly and even asking when he could return to his soccer team. The surgeon was impressed with how well he was healing. Rachel posted regular updates on social media about Tyler's miraculous recovery and how blessed they were to have such amazing doctors. It was during this time that Rachel started planning what she called Tyler's recovery celebration party. She wanted to throw a big event to celebrate his successful surgery and recovery, inviting family, friends, and neighbors. She spent hours on the phone with our mom, planning the menu, decorations, and guest list. The party was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon 3 weeks after Tyler's surgery. I was looking forward to the celebration. It felt good to see Tyler back to his normal self, and I wanted to celebrate his recovery with everyone. I'd even bought him a special gift, a signed baseball from his favorite player that I'd managed to find through a sports memorabilia dealer. 2 days before the party, Rachel called me with news that left me speechless. "David, I need to talk to you about Saturday," she said, her tone oddly formal. "I've been thinking about it, and I don't think you should come to Tyler's party." I was confused. "What do you mean? Why wouldn't I come?" Rachel sighed like she was explaining something obvious to a child. "Tyler is still recovering, and he needs to be surrounded by positive energy only. The doctor said stress can slow down healing, and we need to be really careful about the environment we create for him." I still didn't understand. "Rachel, what does that have to do with me? I'm not stressful for Tyler. He loves spending time with me." "It's not about Tyler specifically," she said. "It's about the overall energy. You've been kind of intense lately. Always checking in, always asking about his recovery, always wanting updates. It's a lot. And honestly, some of the family members think you might be trying to make this whole thing about you." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Make it about me, Rachel? I paid for Tyler's surgery. I've been supporting you guys through this entire process. How is that making it about me?" "See, that's exactly what I mean," she said. "You keep bringing up the money thing. It makes everyone uncomfortable. Tyler's recovery should be a celebration of his strength and our family's love, not about who paid for what."
I sat in my car outside my office, gripping the phone.
"The money thing, Rachel? I spent $12,000 so Tyler could have his surgery. That's not a small thing to just ignore. And we appreciate that, we really do. But Tyler doesn't need to be reminded that his surgery was charity. He needs to feel celebrated and loved, not like he owes anyone anything." I could barely process what I was hearing. "Charity? You called me begging for help. Tyler needed surgery and I provided it. That's not charity. That's family taking care of family."
Rachel's voice got sharper.
"David, you need to understand that this party is about Tyler, not about you getting recognition for helping out. The family has talked about it, and we all agree that the focus should be on Tyler's recovery and our gratitude to the doctors and nurses who took such good care of him." "The family has talked about it," I repeated. "Who exactly has been discussing whether I should be allowed at my nephew's recovery party?" "Mom and Dad agree that we need to keep things light and positive. Mark thinks you've been a little overwhelming during Tyler's recovery. Even Tyler mentioned that you keep asking him how he's feeling all the time." I felt my stomach drop. "So, you've all decided that I'm the problem. The guy who paid for the surgery is too intense for the recovery party. David, please don't make this difficult. We're not saying you're a problem. We're just saying that Tyler needs positive, stress-free energy right now, and bringing up the financial stuff or making Tyler feel indebted isn't helpful for his healing." I pulled into my driveway and sat in the car, trying to process what had just happened. My sister had uninvited me from my nephew's recovery party because my presence might be stressful, despite the fact that I was the only reason Tyler could have the surgery in the first place. "Fine," I said finally. "I won't come to the party, but I want you to know that this is incredibly hurtful, Rachel. I helped Tyler because I love him, not because I wanted recognition, and being treated like I'm some kind of burden after what I've done is really disappointing." "I'm sorry you feel that way," she said, her tone suggesting she wasn't sorry at all. "I hope you understand that we're just trying to do what's best for Tyler's recovery." After hanging up, I sat in my car for 20 minutes, feeling a mix of hurt, anger, and confusion. I'd spent $12,000 to help my nephew, supported the family through a medical crisis, and now I was being excluded from celebrating his recovery because I might bring negative energy. That weekend, while Tyler's recovery party happened without me, I did something I should have done months ago. I looked through my bank statements and calculated exactly how much money I'd given or lent to Rachel over the past 5 years. The total was staggering. Nearly $30,000 in various loans, gifts, and emergencies. None of it had ever been repaid. Most of it had never even been acknowledged. The surgery payment was just the latest and largest in a long string of financial bailouts I'd provided without question. Rachel's car payment when Mark was between jobs, the security deposit for their current house, Tyler's registration fees for soccer and baseball leagues, Christmas gifts when they were having a tight month, groceries during various temporary financial crunches. I'd been funding their lifestyle while being treated as an afterthought in their lives. Monday morning, I went to work determined to move on from the weekend's disappointment. Tyler was healthy, and that's what mattered most. I could deal with hurt feelings. I'd been dealing with them in my family for years. But Tuesday afternoon, I got a call that changed everything. "Mr. Davis, this is Jennifer from the billing department at Phoenix Children's Hospital. I'm calling about the outstanding balance on Tyler Matthews' account." I was confused. Outstanding balance? I paid Tyler's portion of the surgery costs 3 weeks ago. "Yes, sir, I see that payment, but there are additional charges that have accumulated since the surgery, follow-up appointments, additional tests, prescription medications, and some complications during recovery that required extra monitoring. The total outstanding balance is $4,800. I felt my stomach clench. "I'm sorry, but I'm not the patient or the parent. You should be calling Tyler's parents about additional charges." Jennifer's voice became more apologetic. "I understand, sir, but you're listed as the financial guarantor on the account. When you made the initial payment, the paperwork indicated you were taking responsibility for all costs related to Tyler's treatment. Rachel had apparently signed me up as responsible for all of Tyler's medical expenses without telling me. While I was being uninvited from Tyler's recovery party for being too intense, I was simultaneously being held financially responsible for ongoing costs I hadn't agreed to cover. "I'll need to call you back," I told Jennifer. "There's been a misunderstanding." I immediately called Rachel. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. "David, what's up? I'm actually pretty busy right now." "Rachel, the hospital just called me about $4,800 in additional charges for Tyler's treatment.
They say I'm listed as the financial guarantor for all his medical expenses."
There was a pause. "Oh, right. Yeah, when we did the paperwork for the surgery, they asked who would be responsible for additional costs, and I put you down. I figured since you were already covering the surgery, it made sense." I could barely speak. "You figured it made sense?" "Rachel, you put me down as financially responsible for medical bills without asking me." "David, it's not that much money, and Tyler needed some extra monitoring after the surgery. The doctors wanted to be extra careful, which meant a few more appointments and some additional tests. It's all routine stuff. $4,800 is not routine stuff, Rachel. And you can't just sign me up for financial responsibility without asking me." Her tone became defensive. "Look, I was stressed and dealing with Tyler's surgery. I had to make decisions quickly. And since you were already helping with the costs, I thought you'd want to make sure Tyler got the best possible care. By committing me to pay for medical bills I didn't agree to cover. David, Tyler is your nephew. Don't you want him to get the care he needs?" The manipulation was so blatant it took my breath away.
"Rachel, I already paid $12,000 for Tyler's surgery."
"I've been supporting your family for years. Now you're trying to guilt me into paying even more money that you committed me to without my knowledge." "It's not like that," she said. "I just thought you could spend my money without asking because you always have before. But here's the thing, Rachel. I won't be paying these additional bills. I paid for Tyler's surgery, which is what I agreed to do. Anything beyond that is your responsibility." Rachel's voice became shrill. "You can't just abandon Tyler now. He's still recovering. He needs follow-up care. Tyler will get his follow-up care when his parents pay for it. You know, the people who are actually responsible for his medical bills. David, we don't have $4,800. You know our financial situation. Then you should have thought about that before you committed to additional expenses without asking the person you expected to pay for them. I can't believe you're being this selfish. Tyler is family." "Tyler is family," I agreed. "And I proved that by paying $12,000 for his surgery when you couldn't. But being family doesn't mean I'm a blank check for your poor financial decisions. What am I supposed to tell the hospital? Tell them you'll set up a payment plan. Tell them you'll figure it out. Tell them whatever you want, but don't tell them to call me." I hung up before she could respond.
The next day, Jennifer from the hospital called again.
Mr. Davis, I spoke with Mrs. Matthews about the outstanding balance. She said you're no longer willing to cover the costs, but you're still listed as the financial guarantor. We need to know how you'd like to handle the balance. Jennifer, I need to remove myself as the financial guarantor on Tyler's account. I only agreed to pay for the surgery itself, not ongoing treatment costs. Mrs. Matthews committed me to these additional expenses without my knowledge or consent. I understand your concerns, sir. Let me transfer you to our financial services department to discuss removing the guarantee. After an hour of phone calls and paperwork, I successfully removed myself from any financial responsibility for Tyler's future medical costs. The hospital would now need to work directly with Rachel and Mark for payment of the outstanding balance. That afternoon, my phone started ringing nonstop. Rachel called 6 times. Mark called twice. Even my mother called, having apparently heard about the situation from Rachel. I let them all go to voicemail. Rachel's messages started apologetic, but quickly became accusatory. David, please call me back. I think there's been a misunderstanding about the hospital bills. David, the hospital called and said you removed yourself from Tyler's account. We need to talk about this. I can't believe you're doing this to Tyler. He's still recovering, and now we can't afford his follow-up appointments. This is incredibly selfish, David. Tyler is your nephew. How can you abandon him like this? Mark's messages were more restrained, but equally manipulative. David, I know you're upset about the party situation, but Tyler's medical care shouldn't be affected by family disagreements. Can we work this out? Look, man, I get that Rachel handled the financial guarantor thing badly, but Tyler still needs his follow-up care. We can't afford to pay for it all at once, but maybe we can work out some kind of payment plan between us. My mother's message was pure guilt trip. David, Rachel called me crying about Tyler's medical bills. I don't know what's going on between you two, but that little boy needs his family right now. Please call me so we can figure this out. I didn't return any of the calls. Over the next week, the calls and messages continued. Rachel tried different approaches, tearful voicemails about Tyler asking why Uncle David wasn't visiting anymore, angry messages about my selfishness, and desperate pleas about not being able to afford Tyler's medical care. Meanwhile, I did some research into Tyler's ongoing treatment costs. The follow-up appointments and tests Rachel had committed me to pay for weren't emergencies or critical care. They were routine post-surgical monitoring that, while recommended, weren't urgent. Tyler's recovery was progressing normally, and the additional monitoring was more about thoroughness than necessity. Rachel had essentially signed me up to pay for premium medical care without asking, then tried to guilt me into accepting responsibility when I found out about it. 2 weeks after removing myself from Tyler's medical account, Rachel showed up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door to find her standing there with Tyler, both of them looking upset. We need to talk, Rachel said, pushing past me into my living room. Tyler looked uncomfortable. Hi, Uncle David, he said quietly. Are you mad at us?
My heart broke a little. I'm not mad at you, Tyler. I'm not mad at you at all.
Rachel sat down on my couch without being invited. David, this has gone far enough. Tyler has missed 2 follow-up appointments because we can't afford to pay for them up front. The hospital wants payment before each visit now. I knelt down to Tyler's level. How are you feeling, buddy? Are you having any pain or problems? Tyler shook his head. I feel good. My tummy doesn't hurt anymore, but Mom says I need to see the doctor again to make sure I'm really better. I looked at Rachel. Tyler is fine. His recovery is complete. These follow-up appointments aren't emergency care. They're recommended, his surgeon said. Don't you want to make sure Tyler stays healthy? Of course I want Tyler to stay healthy, but Tyler is healthy, and his ongoing medical care is the responsibility of his parents, not his uncle. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry about the party, okay? I was stressed and made a bad decision, but you can't punish Tyler for my mistake. I'm not punishing Tyler. I'm setting boundaries with you. Boundaries, David? Tyler is family. Family doesn't abandon each other. I looked at Tyler, who was listening to this conversation with obvious confusion. Tyler, why don't you go pick out a book from my bookshelf? There are some new ones over there. After Tyler moved to the other side of the room, I turned back to Rachel. You uninvited me from Tyler's recovery party because you said I was making his surgery about myself. You told me that bringing up the financial aspect made everyone uncomfortable. But now that you need money, suddenly it's okay to talk about what I've done for Tyler. Rachel looked down at her hands. I handled the party thing badly. I was stressed and listening to too many people's opinions. I should have talked to you directly. Rachel, you didn't just handle it badly, You excluded me from celebrating Tyler's recovery after I made that recovery possible. You made me feel like my support was unwanted and my presence was burdensome. And then, without telling me, you signed me up to pay for thousands of dollars in additional medical expenses. I was scared Tyler might need extra care, and I knew you'd want him to have the best treatment available. What I want is for you to ask before making financial commitments in my name. What I want is to be treated with basic respect after helping your family through a crisis. What I want is for you to acknowledge that I'm not your personal ATM. Tyler wandered back over, holding a book about space exploration. Uncle David, can you read this with me sometime? Of course, buddy. Anytime you want. Rachel stood up, so... That's it, you're going to let Tyler suffer because you're mad at me. Tyler isn't suffering. Tyler is healthy and happy. You're the one who's suffering because you have to take financial responsibility for your own son's medical care. We can't afford it, David. You know our situation. Then make a payment plan with the hospital, get a second job, cut expenses, do what every other parent does when their child needs medical care. Rachel's face flushed with anger. Not everyone has your income, David. Not everyone can just write a $12,000 check without thinking about it. I did think about it. I thought about Tyler needing surgery and I helped. But that doesn't make me responsible for every medical expense Tyler will ever have. What about everything Mom and Dad did for us growing up? What about all the times our family helped you? I almost laughed. Rachel, when exactly did our family help me? When I needed money for college? When I was struggling in my first job? When I wanted to buy a house? I've been the one doing the helping in this family for years. She grabbed Tyler's hand. Come on, Tyler, we're leaving. Tyler looked back at me with confusion. Bye, Uncle David. I hope I can see you soon. You can see me anytime, Tyler. You just call me, okay? After they left, I sat in my quiet apartment, feeling a mixture of sadness and relief. I was sad that Tyler was caught in the middle of this conflict, but I was relieved to have finally established some boundaries. Over the next month, the pressure campaign intensified. My parents called multiple times, trying to mediate and guilt me into being the bigger person. My father actually used the phrase "blood is thicker than water" during one particularly frustrating conversation. Dad, I paid $12,000 for Tyler's surgery. I've loaned Rachel thousands of dollars over the years, none of which has been repaid. I've been the one helping this family, and all I get in return is being treated like a burden. Done. David, we're family. Family forgives each other's mistakes. Whose mistakes am I supposed to be forgiving? My mistake of helping when asked? My mistake of expecting basic respect in return? Rachel made an error in judgment with the party and the hospital paperwork. She knows that now. Dad, Rachel didn't make an error in judgment. She made deliberate choices that showed exactly how she views our relationship. She views me as a source of money who shouldn't expect anything in return. My mother tried a different approach, calling to tell me how Tyler was asking about me and didn't understand why I wasn't visiting anymore. Mom, Tyler can visit me anytime. Rachel is the one who's decided I'm not welcome unless I'm writing checks. She's sorry about the misunderstanding, David. Can't you let this go for Tyler's sake? There was no misunderstanding. Rachel made it clear that my presence is unwelcome unless I'm providing financial support. I'm just taking her at her word. The calls eventually stopped. Rachel apparently found a way to cover Tyler's follow-up appointments, possibly through a payment plan with the hospital or help from Mark's family. Tyler's recovery continued to progress normally based on the occasional social media updates I still saw. 6 months later, I ran into Tyler at a local bookstore. He was with Mark picking out books for a school project. Uncle David! Tyler ran over and hugged me. I haven't seen you in forever. Mark looked uncomfortable but nodded. Hello, David. How are you doing? I'm good, Tyler. You look great. How are you feeling? I'm good. My stomach never hurts anymore, and I'm back on my soccer team. We won 3 games in a row.
It's awesome, buddy. I'm really glad you're doing so well.
Mark stepped closer. David, look. I know things have been weird between you and Rachel, but Tyler misses you. Maybe we could work something out. I looked at Tyler, who was listening carefully to our conversation. Tyler, I miss you too. But your mom and I had a disagreement about some grown-up stuff, and we haven't figured out how to fix it yet. Is it because of my surgery money? Tyler asked. Mom said you helped pay for it, but then you got mad about something. I was amazed that Tyler knew about the financial aspect. I'm not mad about helping with your surgery, Tyler. I'm glad I could help you get better. Sometimes adults just disagree about things and it takes time to work them out.
Mark spoke quietly.
Rachel really misses you too. She knows she messed up with the party and the hospital thing. She's been talking about calling you. Tyler, would you mind looking at books for a minute while your dad and I talk? After Tyler moved away, I turned to Mark. I'm not trying to punish Tyler or make this difficult for him, but Rachel treated me terribly during a time when I was trying to help your family. She needs to acknowledge that before we can move forward." Mark nodded. "I get it. I told her she was wrong about the party thing at the time, but she was listening to your parents and got all worked up about maintaining the right energy for Tyler's recovery. It was stupid. And the hospital paperwork?" Mark looked embarrassed. "That was really messed up. She should have asked before, putting you down as responsible for additional costs. She knew it was wrong, but she was panicking about Tyler needing extra care. So she decided I'd just pay for it. She figured you'd want to make sure Tyler got everything he needed, but she should have asked." I appreciated Mark's honesty. I want Tyler to have everything he needs too. But I can't be responsible for medical expenses I don't agree to cover, especially when I'm being treated like I don't matter unless I'm writing checks. I understand. And honestly, we've figured out our finances better since then. Rachel got a full-time job and we've been more careful about budgeting. We don't need financial help anymore.
That was interesting.
Rachel got a full-time job. Mark smiled a little. Yeah, turns out when you can't rely on family bailouts, you figure out how to handle your own responsibilities. It's been good for her, actually. We exchanged numbers, and Mark promised to have Tyler call me soon. A few days later, Tyler called and we talked for an hour about his school projects, his soccer team, and a new telescope he wanted for his birthday. It felt good to reconnect with him. A month later, Rachel called me. Her tone was different, less dramatic and more mature. "David, I know it's been a long time, but I was hoping we could talk. I owe you an apology." I was surprised by the directness. "Okay. I handled everything terribly last year. The party, the hospital paperwork, all of it. I was scared about Tyler's surgery and recovery, and I let other people's opinions influence me too much. But mostly I was wrong about how I treated you." I waited for her to continue. "You paid for Tyler's surgery when we couldn't, and instead of being grateful, I made you feel unwelcome and unwanted. Then I signed you up for additional expenses without asking, which was completely out of line. I was taking advantage of your generosity, and I'm sorry. I appreciate you saying that, Rachel. Tyler asks about you all the time. He doesn't understand why his favorite uncle doesn't come around anymore, and honestly, I miss you too. I know I have no right to ask, but I'm hoping we can start over. What does starting over look like to you? It looks like me acknowledging that you've been incredibly generous and supportive to our family, and me never taking that for granted again. It looks like me asking before making any decisions that affect you, and respecting your boundaries when you set them. And if you need financial help in the future, then I'll ask directly, and I'll accept whatever answer you give me without guilt trips or manipulation." We talked for another 20 minutes about Tyler, about her new job, and about small steps toward rebuilding our relationship. It wasn't perfect, but it felt genuine in a way our interactions hadn't felt in years. That weekend, Tyler came over to my apartment for the first time in almost a year. We built a model rocket and launched it in the park behind my building. He told me about school, his friends, and his plans for summer soccer camp. "Uncle David," he said as we watched the rocket parachute down from the sky. "Mom said she was mean to you when I was sick, and that's why we didn't see each other for a while. I was impressed that Rachel had explained things honestly. Your mom and I had a disagreement about grown-up stuff, but we're working it out now. I'm glad. I missed hanging out with you. I missed hanging out with you too, buddy. Mom also said you paid for my surgery so I could get better, and I should thank you properly." I smiled. You don't need to thank me, Tyler. That's what family does for each other. But I want to thank you. Getting my surgery fixed my stomach, and now I can eat pizza again without feeling sick. Well, in that case, you're very welcome." As we walked back to my apartment, Tyler carrying the recovered rocket, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Genuine hope that my relationship with Rachel's family could be healthy and balanced. 6 months later, things have settled into a new normal. Tyler visits me regularly, and we've maintained the close relationship we had before the surgery crisis. Rachel and I talk occasionally, and while we're not as close as we once were, there's mutual respect that didn't exist before. Rachel has kept her word about not taking my support for granted. When Tyler wanted to join a traveling baseball team that required expensive fees, she and Mark figured out how to afford it themselves. When their car needed major repairs, they handled it through their savings and a small loan from Mark's parents. They've built a more sustainable financial life. Most importantly, Tyler is healthy and thriving. His surgery was completely successful, and he hasn't had any stomach problems since his recovery. He's playing sports, doing well in school, and developing into an impressive young man. The experience taught me something valuable about family relationships and boundaries. For years, I'd been enabling Rachel's financial irresponsibility while accepting poor treatment in return. I thought being the reliable family member meant saying yes to every request and absorbing every slight without complaint.